The New York Post dated June 18th, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. by Jonathan M. Trugman. Caption reads, quote, "Will the Federal Reserve ever understand the economy?" Unquote. Article reads, quote, "Last week, Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen, that's Yellen, and her crew of fumbling Fed heads dropped the ball again. Behind news that a much weaker than expected total of 38,000 jobs were created in May, and with Britain's overhyped Brexit vote on whether to pull out of the European Union coming up this week, not many were looking for the Fed to raise rates for the second time in 9 years. And it's not only the Fed's decision to keep rates stiflingly low, but it's the way that it delivers its message, sending an unhelpful negative signal to our economy that has sent markets reeling. The Fed has been consistently wrong on its economy and interest rate forecast for numerous years now. These infuriating Fed fumbles show that the central bank really has little to no clue what it is doing. Actually, I'm going to unquote the article on that. Actually, they do know. Actually, that's a problem. I don't quite buy this article. You know, the Feds, man, the Federal Reserve has been around since 1913. And it was, if anyone knows the history of this, I've gone into it before in other videos. In 1913, they had the 16th U.S. Amendment, which is the federal income tax. Also during 1913, they had the foundation tax-exempt clause that was written into the IRS code, which permitted the people, actually in 1913, the only people that were required to pay federal income tax were actually the upper 2% of the economy. Of course, in 1942, when we were in World War II, it was no longer a voluntary tax. It was now an involuntary tax because they put it on everybody's paycheck. So your employer automatically deducted monies from your paycheck for the federal income tax. Also in 1913, of course, they passed the Federal Reserve. And that was all, if anyone knows the history, you know, that all took place on Jekyll Island, with some of the big shots, the Rockefellers, the Warburgs, the Rothschilds, many others, you know. Not just Jews, by the way. There were many non-Jews that were involved too, believe me. Anyway, and so they hatched this whole thing so they can regulate or control the economy. Now, it might appear in this article that they don't know what they're doing, but believe me, they do. They run it like, I remember my mother once said many years ago that I think it was under Bill Clinton when she said it. And it wasn't Bill Clinton that runs the show, it's Alan Greenspan that runs the show, which is very true. He was one of the chairmen of the Fed. And he ran the show. And even though this lady might not appear in this article that Janet Yellen is running the show, believe me, she's running the show. And they'll fluctuate that market up and down all around however they like. They're very much in control of the marketplace. Actually, that's their expertise. That's how they manipulate people's lives, is through the money system. You either figure out a way to live your life so you're not bought and paid for, so to speak, by the economy, or you just buy into it and you know, and either prosper very much, you know, because you like money, you love to accumulate more and more money, you know. 100 billion is not enough. You must have at least 5 trillion. Or the other alternative is completely X yourself out of the system and become a homeless person. But the irony of a homeless person is that they still want the money. They will panhandle for it. They just don't play the system. You know, they don't have a job. They don't have a house, a roof over their heads. They don't have, car payments and stuff like that. But they still like money. And that money is still controlled by the feds. It's not by the Treasury Department, as according to the U.S. Constitution, but it's actually by the private agency, which is, by the way, the Federal Reserve. People think that's a federal agency, and it's actually not. That's a private agency. And extremely powerful and extremely wealthy people run the show when it comes to the Federal Reserve. So when I read this, I was like, nah. They know what they're doing, believe me. It might not appear like it, but believe me. They're in the business to know how to manipulate the economy, not only in America, but worldwide. And that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, I don't buy it at all, but that's the reality. And unless there's an actual U.S. amendment on the U.S. Constitution that literally prohibits the Federal Reserve to have any control of the U.S. Treasury Department, it's going to continue, and the games will continue to be played on into the next 10 million years. So, that's it. Bye.